I'm Travis Brown, founder and CEO of Mojo Up Marketing and Media. And this is my podcast where I talk to the most successful Black and brown business executives who've broken through the barriers of today's business culture. Welcome to Mojo Up Live. I'm your host, Travis Brown, and today I have an amazing guest with us today, none other than the president and CEO of Citizens Energy Group, and it's Jeffery Harrison. And so, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Travis. Appreciate you having me.
Now, we just had this conversation. I got to bring it back. Is it Jeffery or Jeff? Because you're telling me a story about this. It's kind of funny.
I did. So I actually go by both. My name is actually Jeffery. However, as we grow older and start working in the world and getting out, people shorten that to Jeff. And so was delivering some mulch for my two of my sons and played football at Brebeuf High School and knocked on the door. Lady walks out and says, "Hi, I'm here to deliver your mulch." And she says, "I'm Jeff." And she's like, "Great." She says, "Okay, Jeff, I'd like you to place it." And she's like, "Wait a minute, is your name Jeff or is your name Jeffery?" I said, "Well, actually, it's Jeffery." And she says, "Well, then you need to go by Jeffery. Your name is Jeffery. You need to tell everyone your name is Jeffery." So I went back to Jeffery late in life, and so I'll sign Jeffery Harrison, but everybody normally calls me Jeff.
Well, there's a book that I love. I don't know if you ever read. It's called Chop Wood, Carry Water. It's a phenomenal book, short read, and in there they talk about you having the power to decide what you want people to call you. And I always thought it was fascinating. You know, I'm a Travis, and I had a nickname as a kid, but most of the time TJ, but most of the time it's just been Travis. I haven't had that, but a lot of people definitely do. But I got to jump right in and ask. So you're a CEO of a major corporation, and we had a great conversation once about this. I think it's fascinating that people will look at you today and go, like, you've arrived, you're at this spot. But it wasn't an easy path. Yeah. You know, it wasn't like it just happened overnight. Yeah. Take us through a little bit of that journey to get to a place where most people are like, "Hey, this guy's arrived."
Yeah. So, you're right. It wasn't that straight route that I think most people believe that CEOs take. Like many, my path was similar. So I grew up in a small town, Jeffersonville, Indiana, southern Indiana, the son of a bricklayer, and I became my father's hod carrier. And if you don't know what a hod carrier is, a hod carrier does everything except lay the brick or the block. So I was mixing mud by hand. We did not have a cement truck carrying block or brick up a ladder for a chimney or down in a basement for a basement foundation. So grew up that way, and really my father instilled in me, I would say, just hard work. So I did that for a number of years. While in Jeffersonville, Indiana, I also played sports. I played athletics, and in Southern Indiana, basketball was pretty big.
It's king down there.
It was number one, and so went to high school, Jeffersonville High School, played basketball, and I was ranked 33 out of over 500 students, and so my high school guidance counselor took notice of that, and then talked me into going to a college. But again, as a young man in Jeffersonville, Indiana, like anyone, most of the time you follow the path of your parents or your parent, and that's all you can see. That's all you know. So my stars were changed by in this case, high school guidance counselor, and so. But it's been a really neat ride.
So you go on to Rose Holman.
Rose.
You're a Rose guy, and I heard you say one time you're like, "Who's that girl named Rose?"
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So Rose Holman, get an education, and then you start this professional, run, this journey. That wasn't like, "Hey, one day I'm going to be the CEO of this big company," right. But it's like, I want to go do a job. I want to do a job well. Like, what was your mindset? Yeah. And then I'm curious to know, like, when did it change? Like, I can be this type of leader.
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, again, started off with just basic hard work, and you do that. And I was always an obedient child, listened to my parents, listened to my elders, but I always did what was asked of me as well. And so went to school at Rose, undergraduate in electrical engineering there. But did what was asked. It was very difficult, by the way, going to Rose. Played basketball there, and then when you get out, the same thing. So you go to work, you learn the ropes, you develop the friendships, And then also for me, it was around communication. So if you look at electrical engineering in any field, really, there's certain vernacular, there's certain success factors, there are certain elements around any field. And one of the things that I developed early on was to try to figure out how to help those who were not in my field understand some of these very complex issues. And so that then really catapulted me into some communication changes that needed to be made in order for others to understand me. And so I did that for just about everything that I was working on. And so then I started to move. People started to notice me. Literally, one of my former CEOs. This was my pivotal moment. I don't know if I told you about this, but I made a presentation to our entire officer group at what was then Indianapolis Power and Light Company, the local electric utility, and made a presentation on fuel cells. And when I was done, all the officers around the table remarked how now they felt knowledgeable on a topic they never knew anything about coming into that room, fuel cells. Not only that, they also believed that they could make a decision then based on the information that was provided to them. So that was really a launching point for me. It allowed me then to, my CEO at the time, John Hodewall, who's a brilliant individual, and I've worked for some really smart people, but selected me to be a member of his corporate strategy team. And I probably learned in 3 years what it would take most of the time 10 to 15 years to learn. So it was a really good opportunity for me. But even then, I still didn't think that CEO was possible. I thought maybe a vice president at that time was possible. So went on to do some other things. And again, as you begin to understand people and became a leader, became a supervisor, and then continue to grow, get to know people, understand their needs and wants, and really understanding that leadership, again, is not about what you need, it's about what others need. It's about roadblock removal for them, their growth, their development. That's what leadership was about. And others saw that, began to get promoted more. And then as I rose to the senior vice president level, it was then that I thought, and I was told that, hey, maybe this was a possibility for you. But I'll tell you, and especially I tell young people this all the time, you've got to remain humble. You've got to think scenarios. And so there were times in my career where I thought I was ready for that position, and I didn't get it. I did not get it. And so you're hurt, you're upset, but you've got to use that, and you've got to see it in the moment. You've got to use that as a turning point, as a learning moment. And so you go back, you ask questions. Why didn't I get this position? Can you help me understand my shortcomings? And then use that as a launching pad and keep going. And so that happened to me. In fact, I was told by one supervisor that I'd never rise to the level of a supervisor in my career. And so, again, it's just a testament and again, especially for all of those young people, especially young African Americans, black men out there. This is something to take heart. Again, my story is one where, grew up on free and reduced lunch, and we were poor, food stamps, the whole nine. And again, there was some input into my career by others. I didn't get here by myself, and there are days where I tell everyone I still haven't arrived. You're still continuing to learn, but that's the kind of my story and rise to leadership.
And I got to ask this because it's one thing to be a CEO, and I know people will put a lot of emphasis on that. I think what intrigued me initially was like you're a black CEO in a very predominant company across the country. And there's not a lot of you in that role, in that situation. Did you ever get in that situation? Have you ever been in that position now where you're like, wow, like there's a lot of responsibility. There's more responsibility. Man, if I fail, like what that means. Have you felt that pressure at all?
Oh, absolutely. You feel that all the time. I think in business, and especially at the CEO level, the buck stops here. So if there's something that goes wrong in the organization, that leader is the one that's responsible. So, there's a lot of pressure. There's an incredible amount of pressure. I can't say that it doesn't exist. I can't say that it doesn't impact you. But you've got to learn to manage that stress. You've got to learn to manage that pressure and change that energy into something positive. And so Just a couple of examples. We had two sewer failures in downtown Indianapolis, and that made the news. They were in the Mile Square. There were lots of problems down there, and again, a lot of pressure on me, a lot of pressure on the Citizens Energy Group team, and oftentimes, if not every time, it's not the issue that comes up, the problem that you're facing. It's actually how you deal with that problem. How innovative were you in resolving that issue? How quick did you jump on that problem? And so we got about to thinking about these problems in that way. And again, I think we've got an incredible team. I've got some incredible mentors even today. Still, I would say you don't do anything really alone. But there's even an added pressure, I think, for a black CEO, for a black supervisor, for a black manager, for a black VP. You feel like you've got to do a little bit more and rise above.
And do you feel like we're putting that on ourselves unfairly? Do you feel like it's like, no, it's still warranted based upon where we are?
Yeah, I think I think a little bit of both. I think again, I can tell you that I do probably put a lot more pressure on myself. Again, because of my history, because of what I've seen, because of how I've grown up, because of how I've been treated, that is just baked in. It's just baked into who I am, and I'm talking with friends all the time, and some of my white friends, and they're remarking that I never had to think about going and working for a company and understanding their workforce demographic. That never occurred to me, and it's something that I thought about growing up.
I remember somebody said to me, "It's like, hey, like when I walk into a room, like I never think about white people or black people." And I'm like, I walk into a room and I know instantly how many white people are black people, because most of the time I'm still the only, and even the rooms that we are in often is you're first and you're only, and there bears some of that. As a marketing agency, what I'm telling our people is through our excellence, we're here to pave the way. And the reason why I always say it that way is because we have an accountability factor where people will make decisions on if they let other people that are coming behind us in the room or not, based upon how we handled it. Because we still go through that. We had somebody that hired us for an event, actually that you were at, that kind of said, hey, just want to let you know, we hired somebody that looked like you one other time and it didn't work out so well. And it was like, what's that got to do with me?
Yeah, exactly.
But we know that is part of what we have. And so I can only imagine in the public sector that you're in and all the decisions you have to make. Has there been a point where you're like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this? Like I don't, I want to do it, but like, is there a point where you're just like, am I over my head? Is it too much? Or I just don't want to do it?
Yeah. I'll have to say no. I mean, there are, I'll tell you, there are some bad days. we're in the utility space, and I tell staff, that and it should be this way. This is a thankless job. It most certainly is a thankless job. Every single day, we don't get 100 calls a day saying, "Hey, thank you for clean water. Hey, thank you for safe natural gas. Hey, thank you for whisking away my wastewater." It doesn't happen. But I say it's a thankless job until something goes wrong.
Absolutely.
And then everybody yells at us. But it's a meaningful job. These are critical utility infrastructure services. I mean, imagine the pandemic without water, clean water to wash your hands. That was one of the primary combatants against COVID-19 in the early days. Imagine not being able to flush your toilet or whisk away that wastewater. Imagine not being able to have natural gas during the winter. So critical infrastructure utilities. We've got to do our job each and every single day. And I'll tell you that again. We've got a great team. Really good team, a really diverse team.
How big is the organization?
We're about 1,200 employees, and we've got offices here in central Indiana and then a little bit south as well, where we store natural gas and do some unique things there. But it's really that team effort and our culture in the organization that helps me. And as the CEO, really, that's one of my primary jobs, is to maintain this culture of teamwork. We always tell everyone, you're not doing this, you're not in this by yourself, and I've got to walk that talk. And so I lean on my leadership team a lot with just about every single decision.
We're going to talk about some DEI stuff later, because I know you guys are really committed to that. But But I'm interested, when you start talking about culture as a CEO of a large organization. Now, I gave myself I started a company, gave myself a title. You earned yours differently. But when you're in that situation, you have to rely so much on other people. Are they giving me the right information?
Right.
Do I have the right leadership team together? You're making decisions based upon people that are giving you information,
Exactly.
right? I'm interested to understand, like, what is that decision-making process for you? Because you've had to make, in the last year or so, even some really tough decisions. How do you make those tough decisions?
Yeah. It's one where, again, it starts with surrounding yourself with really, really smart people. So I always like to think about it this way. Imagine that you go into some field that you know nothing about. Let's say you and I, you're now the CEO of a chip manufacturing, or you know nothing. I presume you know nothing about making computer chips. And so what you want to do is surround yourself. You're the CEO. You're sitting at the table. You want to surround yourself around that table with people who you trust, people who are super smart. And understanding how to make chips and how to distribute them and market them and sell them and understand the financials. That's who you want around your table. So you want to hire the best talent that you can. And so as a CEO, that's how we think. We want really, really smart people that for citizens and for many other organizations, they've got to be super smart. Plus, they've got to be a fit, a culture fit for your organization. And whatever your culture may be. Some, they'll get rid of the bottom 10%. My organization, we've got some values that we espouse, and you've got to understand, believe in those values in order to be in our organization. And so once you build that team, for me, decision making becomes easy. So I again, one of the things I say is, as a CEO, I pride myself in my leadership style, knowing that if someone were to walk in the room while my officers and I are having a discussion, they would not be able to discern who the CEO is. There's such a free flow of point and counterpoint, pro, con, agreement, disagreement. There's just this free flow of information. No one knows who you've created that environment. And so decision making then becomes easy if you've got that type of environment within your organization. And again, in order for love being involved in the community, very involved in our community. In order for me to do that, I've got to have really smart leadership backing me up to be able to do that.
I know once I heard this, and I kind of repeat it to our team a lot. It's like, my job is to make great decisions. Trying to empower people. If it's a clear black and white decision, like, you're empowered to make that. When you get to a point and you feel like I just am uncertain of what decision I need to make, then those are the type of things that kind of it's my job to weigh in and have conversation. And ultimately, it still may be your decision to have to make.
Right.
I still may be accountable for it, but it's your decision to make. So I think it's neat to understand how people go through making decisions. From a people perspective and relationships, talk about your philosophy on relationship building, networking, people development. I'm curious to hear that.
Yeah. So, again, I think relationship building is critical. It truly is. And so spend a lot of time, again, just nurturing and building relationships for a number of different reasons. One, I personally enjoy it. Two, I think any great community has got to have great leadership. And those great leaders have got to work together, and there will be bumps in the road that occur. They happen because they're relationships. But I think we still have to work very, very hard to manage those relationships, and many times that means leaving the ego at the door and really understanding someone else's vantage point. And so, I've recently, Citizens has been in the news in a negative manner in some respects, and hearing some different things from different entities. And so, I just simply went on a listening session. And so I would call up someone who has said something negative about the organization and say, hey, I'd like to understand more around your vantage point. And so from a leadership perspective, I think as leaders, we've got to be able to do that, especially for, I think Indianapolis and Central, we're the 15th largest community in the country. So that's critical for us to work together. When it comes to development, it's one of my favorite topics. I love developing people, seeing them grow. And again, it's a reflection on what happened to me. There were so many individuals who provided input and energy and time and money into my personal growth and development. And I have grown leaps and bounds from where I came from as a youth and growing up in Jeffersonville, Indiana. I would not be here of my own volition. But that's something that, again, as I begin to mature, it significantly motivates me to then reach back and help those. And again, I wasn't able to at times acknowledge those who helped me, and I don't expect that in return for those that are helped today.
I know often when you're a CEO, a black CEO, you become this voice for Black America, whether you want to have that or not. And you're trying to go, I'm not, I'm not. Yeah. But you get called on by a lot of people. Sure. Boards, speaking opportunity. I, knowing you, it's like, I know you want to make an impact. How do you decide what I can do? How much time can I give to do certain things? I can only imagine how stretched thin you got to be.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a real issue. But what motivates me, if I've got the time, then I will make that. I will make that event. It's just too important. I think I don't know about you. Growing up, you just didn't see people, black people, in these very high positions. It just didn't happen, and so it's important for black youth to see a black man, a black woman in those senior leadership positions. And quite honestly, and I've been told this by others, including some close friends, whether you want to do it or not is irrelevant. You have a duty, you have an obligation to get out there, get in the community, and help others understand your history, your record, what you did to get to where you are and how you did it. Some of it includes hard work, some of it includes a little bit of luck. But it's that combination that again motivates me to whenever there's not a conflict, I'll make that event and again try to give back as much as I can.
You mentioned you have kids, family. So what's that family? What's your family dynamic, and how does that work? Being in the high profile situation you are, time carving out events.
Sure. So I've got two boys. They're both engineering. I don't know where they got that. I don't know where they got that from. So one is actually another Rose grad, mechanical engineer from Rose, and I've got another one who's a senior at Michigan. Who'll graduate next year in an industrial operations engineering major. And really, from a family situation, it's incredibly benign. It's incredibly simple. My boys don't care that I'm a CEO. they could care. Whatever, Dad. Can you grab me? Hand me the remote?
Because you've been 7 years or so.
It's been 7 years. Yeah. So 7 years, and so we spend time together when they're in town, when they're around. Their priority. So love these guys, and just really neat again to see these young black men grow up, develop, helping them out as best I can. They're gonna carve their own path and their own futures.
What's Dad advice like? Is it this wisdom from a top? Is it this? Because there's so many things I feel like I want to make sure your kids know and take them through. Do you have simple, or is it just conversational all the time? Like what's best dad advice?
It's a great question. It's really more conversational. I truly tell them a couple things. One is I don't want them to measure success as being a CEO. That's not the measure. If success for you is being an artist, then that's success. Right. If success for you is just being really, really good at something you care about, then that's the measure of success. And so we'll talk just about some simple things, first and foremost, just in life, and talk about being good people, lessons I've learned. I've made just normal parenting. I've made mistakes as a person. I've made mistakes as a dad. I've made mistakes as a leader. So I try to impart on them those lessons. And then we do talk about. We're beginning to talk about what that professional world looks like, and what success factors they may want to focus on and concentrate in on. To continue to grow, if that's something that they desire. I have one that might not want to become a supervisor. I have one that probably will want to become a CEO. And at the end of the day, they may swap. I don't know, right. But we'll continue to have this really open dialogue. I put on them. I try not to put on them any kind of constraint or any kind of expectation. I really want them to understand where their passion lies, and what they want to do. Again, as we started, I didn't know I was going to be a CEO, but as I got closer and closer, it seemed to make sense to me, and it seemed to fit. I thought, and so again, my board agreed, and so here I am.
Mm-hmm. And I heard you talk about you teaching a little bit from failure. I got to ask, what's that big failure that you had to be like stop in your tracks? man, I just messed this up, and I got to figure out how to get this right to keep it moving and learn from it?
Yeah. So there have been, gosh, so many. I'll highlight one that's a failure, but I don't think I could have avoided it. So we used to be called Citizens Gas and Coke Utility. And so I ran the Coke utility business portion of Citizens Energy Group. And metallurgical coke is a product that is utilized in the manufacture of iron ore and steel. And we ran this business for a number of years, but through a number of operational problems, we had to exit that business. I thought I could ride us through and manage that business through this problem period. It turned out that I could not. And but I'll tell you, the lessons learned in there, again, managing a tremendous amount of stress and pressure. I had Honda of America come knocking on my door completely unannounced, saying, hey, we need our Coke. And so there were just so many lessons that were learned from that failure, I'll say, that truly are helping me as a CEO. And today in so many different areas.
How do you, at this level, how do you grow? Like, and where do you vent? Where do you, because, there's this leadership conversation that you don't do that down, but you're here. Like, how do you learn, grow, have tough conversations so that you can figure stuff out?
Yeah, and that's where your mentors come in. Some of them know that they're your mentors, some of them don't. So there are a number of individuals that I'll look to have a conversation with. My board members who have been in different industries, who understand different dynamics around business, provide advice, significant advice. And I'm lucky enough to have two boards. I've got a board of trustees and a board of directors, and both sets provide me with advice. So we'll have conversation sometime formally in our boardroom, and then we'll meet informally to talk about some issues. I'll receive guidance. I'll push back on them. They'll push back on me. But we do so in a very understanding relationship between each other, to know that we're both doing this for the better good and for the betterment of our community.
I got one really important question left as our time is going out, but I got to put you on what we call the Mojo Up hot seat.
Sure.
So I got a list of quick little questions I'm going to ask for you to give me a name, association, or something like that. All right. Favorite place to vacation?
Oh gosh, vacation. I would say I'm just now getting into hiking.
Okay.
So been to out west in the hills, and then to out east as well.
Coolest city you've been to?
Coolest city would be Toronto.
Favorite food and restaurant?
Favorite food would probably be Harry and Izzy's downtown. And they actually had a plaque. I spent so much money that they made a plaque for me. They put it on the table. It's embarrassing. And favorite food, I would say probably seafood.
Okay.
Yeah, seafood.
A brand that you love?
Oh, a brand that I love, Nike. I'm an old school. It's old school, right?
That's old school. Right? Yeah. I'm always rocking the Jays. Favorite sports team?
I'm a Colts. I'm a home in any Indianapolis team.
Okay.
The Colts, the Fever, the Pacers, the 11. I love our hometown teams.
Love it. Favorite college?
College, got to go with Rose Holman.
A TV show that you watched or have recently binged?
TV show that I've watched or recently binged. I actually don't watch a lot of TV, but let's see. I'll pass on that one.
All right. A movie that at some point in time in your life has been powerful for you.
I don't. I'll go with Will Smith. Pursuit of Happiness was an interesting, powerful movie for me. Yeah.
A book that you would recommend?
Gosh, I'd say it's an oldie but a goodie. I'd say I'll go with Good to Great.
Okay. Type of music. Favorite music?
I like all music. I'll go back to the old Motown 70s, 80s type music.
If you had a hype song or a walk-up song, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. What is this? I'm drawing a blank. Let's go with Pump It Up.
There you go. And a nonprofit you love to support?
Oh, I can't select one. We have so many amazing nonprofits. We really truly do. They're all amazing. So I can't select every one that I'm on the board of. Every single one. There you go. It's a tie.
Last question is, we all at some point in time come to the spot where we have the tombstone that has a number on the front, number on the back, and the dash. And the dash is all the stuff that we did. when they talk about Jeffery, what do you want them to say about you?
You know, I would love things around my great being a good father. I've made mistakes, but would love to hear some things about being a great father, and then giving back really to the community but making a difference in that respect. So.
Jeffery Harrison, thanks for coming by and chopping up with us. You have the honors to close it out.
All right, and that's a wrap.